Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's episode, I want to issue a content warning. This episode includes discussions around sexual assault that may be distressing or triggering for some listeners. Please take care of your needs first and either skip past that discussion or skip the episode entirely if you feel like this discussion will be too much for you with where you're at right now on your own personal journey. I believe in creating a safe and supportive space for everyone, and part of that is acknowledging both the importance as well as the impact of these topics. For those of you who continue to listen, I hope this episode fosters understanding and healing. It really is a beautiful conversation, but around a very sensitive topic.
Welcome to Internally Guided Life, a podcast to help you unlock a life of balance, fulfillment, and joy. I'm Kayla Sweet, and together we're going to have fun and create change from the inside out. I'm so glad you're here.
Welcome back, my friends. I am so incredibly excited about today's episode. You are going to be blown away. We have a phenomenal guest joining us. She is a director. She is an actress. She is the star of an upcoming film that I personally cannot wait to see. We have Anna Fishbeyn joining us, and she is amazing. She embodies so much energy and joy and purpose and passion, all of the things that the people listening to this are so curious about and want to have more of in their life. And we are going to go there today. We're going to talk about Anna's amazing journey, her life story, the work she's doing in the world. I just cannot wait to see where this conversation goes. So without any further delay, Anna, I'm so excited you're here. Welcome to Internally Guided Life.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. What a beautiful introduction. It sent shivers down my spine.
This conversation is going to be a good one. I can feel it in my bones. So,
well, we've already had amazing conversations.
yes, now we get the gift of sharing the interaction. So, tell us more about you. Tell everybody that's listening or watching a little bit about your story, who you are, what you do.
So I was going to tell you about the fact that I am I've been working on this film for quite some time, and now it's been super exciting. This movie is going to be screening at Cannes during the Cannes Film Festival, and we're going to have an after party. And I was just on TV talking about this. So it's been super, super exciting. And I'm kind of seeing the fruition of a lot of my hard work and some of the glamour coming around into my life. And I love glamour as much as I love to get down into the business of things. I also love glamour. And so let me just say a little bit about the film and about the work that I do. So I've been doing work for women for a very long time. And I kind of started in the entertainment business with my shows, and everything that I've ever done has been about women. And I like to say my first play in New York was called Conversations with My Breasts. My second play was called Sex in Mommyville. I.e. no sex. And then this movie is called Galaxy 360, A Woman's Playground. And it takes place in 2195, where women rule the world, men dream of getting married, and it takes place over a male beauty pageant.
Yeah.
So, and so I basically take everything that our lives are about, and I give it to the men. I just say, like, let's see what happens to you guys when you have to worry about your muffin tops and looking hot and injecting your faces with duck fat or whatever it is. I came up with absolutely ridiculous things to inject men with, because, the reality is we inject ourselves with really ridiculous things. And so it's so funny when you do that and when you transform it, and I kind of, I tried it in a shorter form. I had a web series called Happy Hour Feminism, and I started creating these reversals in 2015, 2016. And the first reversal was I put men on a wolf period. And I said, okay, let's see what happens to men if they have a period and how would they react and all that kind of stuff. And it was really funny. Like we had you've got to take the male personality and you say to yourself, well, you know what, if they're being really irritable and they're not able to handle stress or whatever, maybe they're on their wolf period. And so I kind of like flew from there, and I just kept expanding and expanding and expanding. And then I said, well, what if we just did an entire beauty pageant, right? And we made the men stress about how they look and what they're doing with their bodies and their appearances and everything like that. And what happens if the women were super powerful and they were in charge and they're the CEOs and they're the scientists? What kind of world would we live in? And I put it all into the future so that it allowed me to have as much kind of fantasy and flexibility and color. I made it all pink and purple and yellow. And I tried to stay away from like the typical doomsday, sci-fi movies that are all gray and all that kind of stuff. Mine is like really psychedelic, 80s funk disco. So, and I thought, well, what happened if we did that? And the result has just been absolute fun. It was fun on set. It was fun making it. And it's been super fun screening it and watching people's reactions to it.
I'm so excited. We're going to talk more about the film, so we are not done, but I just have to say, I watched the short film that you did, Invisible Alice, just yesterday, and I just felt every single thing that a person could feel in a 20 some odd minute short film. And it was just beautiful. It was poetic, it was existential, it was funny, it was sad. I absolutely loved it, and I am so psyched now to be able to see Galaxy 360, A Woman's Playground. I have no doubt in my mind that it's magical. So I'm so excited.
So much. Thank you so much. I mean, thank you so much for saying that about Invisible Alice. That was my very first film. It was the first time I directed. I was really afraid to direct. I had my director who directed me in my play off Broadway kind of encouraged me to take that on, and he was a man, and I'd watched him direct. He directed my web series, and when I directed Invisible Alice, I basically he was the executive producer on that film. And one of the reasons I asked him to be an executive producer was because I needed help directing. And it was the kind of thing where you had an entirely male crew. And sometimes I would say things and I was super not confident. And I teach confidence now, and I do confidence workshops. But part of the reason that I do is because I'm one of those people who didn't have that confidence. And I didn't have that confidence, to say to people, you need to do this and I need you to do that. I didn't know how to even speak this way because I was all about, pleasing people and smiling and being the perfect wife and the perfect mother and the perfect, daughter. And everybody had to like me. Plus I was an actress. So you added all that and the whole pleasing mentality. How was I going to go from that to getting something done on set? So this guy, my director, who'd been my director at Happy Hour Feminism, his name is Adrian Roman. And I had him be an executive producer on Invisible Alice. And what would basically happen is I would ask him, I would go privately, I would say, can you tell the guys to do this? Because I don't think anyone's listening to me, and can you ask them to do that? Because I don't think anyone heard me. And then the one time I insisted on my own idea was when I know because you watched the movie, was when everybody dances, the grandmother, the mother, and the child, and they all dance. And it was the one time that I sort of out loud said, okay, right now we're just going to throw away the script and we're just going to dance. And I love improvising. And suddenly we did. And everybody on set, all the men, including him, everybody was like, why are you doing that? That's not in the script. Why are you doing that? That's not a good idea. And I said, you know what? let's go with it. And it was the first time that I was like, no, but I want to do, and then I had talk back. I had people saying to me, no, but maybe, but that's not in the script. Why are we doing? And I just kept saying, no, let's do this. Oh, can we please do this? I was the director. Can we please do this? And it was the first introduction in my bones, in my body, in my cells, where I actually saw an entire room disagree with me. And I had to say, no, this is something I want. This is something I can see being a beautiful part of this movie and this camaraderie between the three women. And I want to show that, and I want to show that through dance. And so that becomes the very first sort of seed of who I become as a director for Galaxy 360. And by the time Galaxy 360 comes around, I mean, I am a boss lady. I mean, that time, by that point in time, I walk on set, I'm like, do that, you do this. I remember you didn't have lunch, and I remember that person over there is upset about something, and that person over there needs this, and that person forgot, and I would have it like all in my head. And not just directing people, but what everybody needed, and what were the altercations there, and who disagreed with whom. It was, I don't even know how it happened, because it was like 50 people in the room and you remember everything. But there's like an adrenaline to having to make an independent movie on a limited budget, and you've got that whole day and you got to get it all done. And so I learned something about myself. I learned that I loved being a boss. I learned that even if people hated me, I loved it. No, people didn't. I was good. It was good. I didn't yell at people. I wasn't like, I watched male directors lose their temper. And it was one thing that I was going to say that I was never going to do. I was never going to lose my temper. I was always going to keep my cool. I was never going to use the F word. I was going to try to make it, and I was going to bring my femininity to leadership. I was going to bring that nurturing quality. I was going to make a kind of balance between being able to say what needed to be done, be firm about what it is that I envisioned and wanted, and at the same time, be able to be kind and be soft and be loving, because they were all my family, and they were all there for me, and because they believed in this vision. And so I have such love for everybody who had been part of this set, Galaxy 360. Similarly, I have love for the people on Invisible Alice. It's just that in Invisible Alice, I hadn't come into my own yet. I was just kind of feeling the ground.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Having just watched that, like that scene is so fresh in my mind. And to think that in the background of creating that just beautiful, connective, joyful, relatable, like such a beautiful moment. I don't even think the film wouldn't be the same without that scene. And in a short film, every scene matters, and that carried so much to know that was the moment you first had to push back and to assert, like, you knew what was right, and that you got to assert your confidence and your knowing, your wisdom, that this was what needed to happen in a really powerful way for such a beautiful, feminine, joyful, soft scene. It's such a beautiful, complimentary story. I had goosebumps listening to you share that.
It's so interesting that you're saying that, because I feel like there's a lot of femininity involved in that. And the men who run, they're the men behind the cameras. They're the guys who are helping carry stuff. They're the guys behind the lights. They were my executive producer. They're all men around me, and they couldn't understand it, right? Because they didn't understand what it was that I was trying to achieve through this dance. They thought, oh, I just wanted to dance around or whatever. But I was like, no, there's a connection. There's the fact that the grandmother is dancing together with the mother and the grandchild. And for women, it means so much, that whole intergenerational connection between women and our camaraderie and our sisterhood, that, is often misunderstood by men, or they're just not in it. They don't know what that is, because they're not part of it in normal life, right? They're not part of the a bunch of women sitting around the table, talking about their lives and their past and their relationships. And that's what I wanted to capture. And because it's a short film, you can't do it through talk too much, but you can do it through dance. And dance is such a moment for women. I really do believe that when women get together and they dance together, it's a whole incredible thing.
Yes. such incredible energy when you're able to share that like joyful movement together. Oh my goodness. Okay, I could totally divert the whole thing and just continue to analyze this, but I want to give everybody a chance to get to know you a little bit better. So I'm going to shift us just a tad,
Uh-oh.
ask you and ask you to share a little bit about your journey, your life story, as much or as little as you're comfortable with. You don't have to give us the whole thing, but what brought you here? We heard a little bit of it with Invisible Alice and coming into some confidence in that, but give us some of the behind the scenes. Who is Anna?
So, I like to say I'm one of the happiest people I know who's had one of the hardest lives I know, right? I have lived, in another world. I was brought to America as a child. I was a political refugee from Russia, and I've lived through things most people can't imagine. And I've spent a good portion of my artistic life creating some of these worlds in order for people to kind of step into them. And my plays, my play, My Stubborn Tongue, talks about what immigration from the former Soviet Union was like. We came here in the late 80s, and it was a time when nobody was allowed to leave, and we got out by a fluke. We were followed by the KGB. I mean, it was, my grandfather was beaten up and left for dead, and so like by the KGB actually. And so I lived through that. Like I watched that. I watched my parents. I watched the struggle. I was told to be silent. I learned very, very well how to be silent in my young life, and how to kind of not know and not be able to trust people. And I ended up growing up into one of the most trustworthy, naive people you could possibly meet. I believed everyone as an adult, and I like, and I'm one of those people that I think defies everything that people are told about children from difficult childhoods, because it really didn't affect me. I'm not jaded. I never was. I was always happy. I always wanted to wake up happy, and no matter what would happen, I tried to have a really fun time, because I love fun. And so even through the hardships, like I remember coming to America and living in poverty and having a pretty difficult life in America, what we went through, and not my parents not being able to speak English, and I would learn English just to be able to help translate things for my parents. And I was a little kid, and so I would be studying the language, and I would be working on it all the time, and then I would be helping my parents get their coats, buy their coats, go to the restaurant, buy the food, buy the pizza, the car. I remember going to being the kid and having to talk to the dealership. My mom said this, and now you guys need to do this, and I had to learn how to do all that. But through it all, I kind of just was always trying to put a positive spin on everything that was going on around me. And part of that was creating a fantasy world, and part of it was creating art. And so I would paint, and I would draw, and I would write stories. And really, literature and stories saved my life, I would say. And being able to write out the pain, because I remember thinking, how could I survive this moment, and how could I survive that moment? Well, I'm just going to write it. And if I write it, and so I talk a lot about, there was another workshop that I wanted to, I ended up teaching confidence, but I wanted to teach writing for healing. And the idea behind it is that you write in order to heal. You don't write to create the novel. You write to heal your soul. Because when you say it, right, and you see that as a mirror, if it's written, it's almost like you finished that pain. Like it's almost like you put an end point, and then after you write it out, you can kind of move on, because you've said, okay, this is the reason, or you can understand it in your mind, and you can analyze it from the perspective of, okay, now I understand how that happened. Now I understand that these were the circumstances around my life. And now I can say, in certain situations, it wasn't my fault. in in other situations, because you come through a logical conclusion in your writing, because you're able to see, well, this person said this to me and that person said that to me, and now I understand what it means. Through this process, there's a lot of healing that goes on by just you living with you, living in the analysis of you. And then once you do that movement, and I really think it's like a movement within your own soul, after that, you can move on and go through more suffering and make new mistakes if you choose to remain naive and gullible like me, and just do it again, do it all over again, repeat, just repeat the process of suffering and analysis, and suffering and analysis. But it makes for a very interesting life.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't undo me. In other words, I don't regret having made the mistakes. I don't regret being the gullible person that I am, because if you take that away, then you take away the positivity, and you take away the hope, and you take away the faith in humanity. You take all of that away, right?
Oh my gosh. I feel like everything is making so much sense as to why I felt so connected with you when we first talked, because not everyone understands the strength and courage that it takes to remain hopeful and optimistic in the face of challenge. It really takes a special kind of spirit to move people forward, and to use things like your creativity and your storytelling and your art to make sense of a life that could have broken people, could have taken, decades and decades of suffering and healing. And yet here you are creating this beautiful work and sharing it with the world. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's such an interesting thing, because a lot of people sometimes blame themselves. A lot of women blame themselves when we go through hardship. We say to ourselves, oh, I was such a fool. I got involved. It was so stupid of me to have gotten involved with that guy who I believed, and he ended up lying to me, and it's my fault. And now I'm suffering, and I've gotten myself into this situation. And I always say, I've always had the attitude is like, okay, yeah, I made that mistake for sure. I got involved with someone who lied to me for sure. I've been there. But in order for me not to have done that, I would have had to have been a different person. And in order for me to have been, and I'm not saying, don't be smart. I mean, I'm not saying don't be more clever. I'm not saying don't be more, I guess I learned how to be a little more, hey, you know what? That's wrong. No, I still dive in. I still fall in love. I still believe. I still do everything I did before. Like I said, but I don't blame myself for it. I think that it is the way that I want to live this life. And it's a really important choice. And I made that choice. I've made the choice to trust. I've made the choice to believe. And I don't believe in blaming oneself to kind of, because what tends to happen in the blame situation, it's a whole other way of thinking about the world and thinking about life. Because if we think of life as a journey and a set of lessons and a set of creativity and a set of creative projects and a mission, and in my case, I feel like everything I've been through has put me on this mission of helping women and of empowering women, and really, like, my heart goes out to so many women who've gone through so much and so much more than me. I like to say I'm just a statistic. And just to backtrack, so speaking of sort of really terrible things that have happened, and since we're on the subject of sharing, and the reason I'm saying that is because in 2017, right before I made Galaxy 360, I got sexually assaulted at a film festival, out of all things. And I was flirting with another filmmaker, and I went and I was hanging out with people, and I was having a great time. And then I went to the bathroom, and he followed me. He locked me in the bathroom, and then he sexually assaulted me. He pulled at my hair. He bit my cheek. He pushed me against. He didn't end up actually raping me, but I fought, and I got out of it. And I ended up getting out of it, but definitely with repercussions to my soul, because I then suffered from pneumonia for a month and had a kind of sense of, not wanting to go on, not wanting to do anything, just feeling like, what's the point? And I was a fool. But most vitally, and this is an important thing I'll say on the topic of sexual assault, because it wasn't like, oh, this guy grabbed my ass kind of thing. It wasn't like, it was a physical altercation where I had to fight for my body. And the only thing that saved me is that I didn't have a single sip of alcohol and he was drunk. And I'm a pretty strong little person. I work out and everything. So I was able to fight him. And the most traumatic part for me truly was that when I walked out, and right after that, my hair was messy or whatever. And because I'd flirted with him before, the men at the bar, the friends, the filmmakers all assumed that, something sexual went on, something consensual went on. And I was mortified that this happened, and primarily was mortified for him, like embarrassed for him. And so then he walked out and he saw me say to everybody that I'd been talking to before, like, I'm going to go back to my hotel room, I'll see you all later. And he pretended to be with me and then said, I'm going to walk her out. I'm going to help her get a cab. And instead of saying to everybody there, I don't want this guy walking me out. This guy just assaulted me. This was a terrible thing that happened to me. I said nothing. And that, not the assault, not what I had gone through, not the fight bothered me, but that I couldn't utter the words that I don't want you to walk me out, that I was stuck in this, I need to keep pleasing not just the guy who assaulted me, but everybody else. And I don't want everybody to be uncomfortable on my behalf. And I don't want to embarrass him. And so all these, and so that was the reason why I then got pneumonia, was because of self-blame. And so I always say that when you make a mistake, and I made a mistake. I assumed he was a nice person. I had flirted with him. I didn't anticipate the assault. I didn't anticipate, I had bruises afterwards, the whole thing. But that happens. And if you blame yourself, then you are actually destroying yourself with your own thoughts of blame. So your own thoughts. So not only have you gone through a tragedy that you didn't, that wasn't your fault, somebody else did this to you, but now you're beating yourself up for that tragedy, because we as women tend to beat ourselves up. And we are taught as women that when we get assaulted, it was because of the way that we looked or because of the way that we flirted. And when I called up the festival leaders and I said, I got assaulted by this guy, they said, oh, would you mind just not talking about it, because we have the award ceremony the following day, and it'd be much better for the award ceremony if we didn't just talk about it. It's right before, I believe it was right around the Harvey Weinstein scandal. And I ended up getting an award for Invisible Alice, the short film we're talking about. And he ended up, the man who assaulted me, and getting an award for his own feature film and winning for Best Director for a feature. And I ended up winning for Invisible Alice. And we stood on the same stage. And that following day, that day that I stood on the stage with him, I found out that he had 2 little babies and he was married. And it just, I was broken in the aftermath. If it was me right now, well, it wouldn't be me right now, right? Like, because of everything that I've been through since then, obviously I wouldn't have even, talked to him probably at this point, because I have learned a lesson. I have understood things, and I'm much smarter than I was then. But that's what happened. And I ended up blaming myself, and there's nothing else to be said about it. Like, but this is the important part. And this is for the women who are listening to this and who are thinking about self-healing and journeys and suffering. And, the fact that I am doing all these things. Well, so in 2017, when this happened, I had pneumonia. I didn't go to a doctor. I suffered through it, took a mustard bath, got better after the mustard bath, got out of pneumonia, and ended up making Galaxy 360. So ended up, so that was sort of my response to what happened to me. And I said, you know what, I'm going to just turn my tragedy into comedy. I'm going to have a good time with it. And the other important thing is the night that he assaulted me, and this is important for any woman, any young woman, any woman of any age listening to this, I wore a short skirt, a dress that was transparent to the sides, so you could see sort of like transparent side, very sexy, like very sexy. High-heeled shoes and thigh-high, what do you call it? To pantyhose, thigh-high pantyhose. So if I stretched a little, you could see that I was wearing thigh-high, right? So I intended to look sexy. Did I intend for that to happen? Obviously not. Would I ever take back my outfit? Never. Right? I would wear it again and again and again. But the point I'm making is there's no reason why that should have happened. None at all. I never said I wanted that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for just the honest reality is that more of us have been assaulted than not in some way or another, whether that's been by a stranger or someone we love. That's part of the like grim reality of existing as a woman in a woman's body in this world. And we don't talk about it enough and we don't share. And just thank you for being open about this part of your story and your journey and this tragedy, this trauma that you went through, and for the empowering like message of you would wear the outfit again. Like it doesn't matter. It's not about us. It is about them when those things happen, and we have to keep rising up and creating change in the world so that we don't have to be worried or second guessing or self-blaming when trauma happens, when tragedy happens. And the fact that you were able to go from that place, from an assault and being traumatized and self-blame and physical illness, to turning around and deciding to make a comedy of all things, like this comedy that's also a social commentary, that's also a beautiful artistic statement of color and of life and of vibrancy and of everything that is the opposite of how you feel after an assault. Like what a transformation, if I've ever heard one. That is just, what was there anything else that happened that like moved you? Any other turning points in that time frame? Like how did you get from trauma and tragedy to creating a comedy and healing through that process? Was there a moment, or is it just your natural state? Is this just what you do?
I do that. I had several other experiences preceding that. I was in a director program, and I had some really not positive experiences with men running that program who, we were all doing our short films and all the stuff. And I remember one of the leaders of the program said to me, "How dare you think you can make a feature film? And who do you think you are?" kind of statement. And it was really mean and corrosive. And he was doing that to a lot of the female directors at the time. This is 2017. And I don't know why I even keep saying 2017, because it really doesn't matter. I mean, we're still struggling as women. But I remember when he said, "Who do you think you are, thinking you're going to make a feature film?" The first thing I thought is, I'm going to make a feature film. I mean, it was just like, oh, taunt me a little more. Tell me I can't do something. I was that kid. When my parents said, "No, you can't do this," I'd be like, "I'm going to do this," whether it was for my own good or not. But I was that person who was inspired by this sort of like, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I've had experiences like that in my life. Like I wrote a novel, which was published by Simon & Schuster, and it ended up getting in Barnes and Nobles, and it got really great reviews. But before I wrote it, when I was 19, one of my closest friends in college said to me, you can't write in English. English is not your first language. Most, you're never going to be as good as these great writers who were born into English. Most of them are either British or American. And, this is your second, you don't know things. And I just remember thinking, I'm going to write a novel and I'm going to prove you wrong. It's just like my life has been like a series of like giant projects that I've undertaken because somebody said I couldn't do it,
I love that. I love it so much.
So that's part of it. And obviously the other part of it was, so when to get back to the assault, and this is an important, so everything almost happened at the same time. I came out of that director school where the head told me, who do you think you are, that you think that you can do this? And then I had another opportunity to be on a talk show, to be the talk show hostess. And I had a lot of ideas. And I remember saying to the people who wanted to hire me, I said, I want to have like male models on the show. I want to do the opposite of what most shows do. I want to have male models and I want them to stand side by side as I do my show. And they were like, no. So I remember thinking, you know what? What do you mean no? What do you mean no? I'm gonna do that myself, like, and so that was one of the motivating factors. But the most important thing that happened in the aftermath of the assault, I took it quite seriously. I called up a lawyer at the time. And I spoke extensively. I wrote an entire thing about what he did step by step. I was going to press charges. He was an American who lived in Miami, and the assault happened in Milan. And there were cameras that had captured him biting my cheek and pulling it down with his teeth. And there were cameras that captured him trying to pull out my hair and things like that. So there's a lot of evidence at play, and there was an eyewitness to some of the assault. Eyewitness who did nothing about it, by the way. The man who was sitting at the front desk, who kind of closed his eyes and looked down while this man really assaulted me, like, publicly. And so I was so outraged that not only did this happen to me, but then part of the assault happened in public, and part of that assault was documented. And I started speaking to the lawyer and I said, okay, well, what are the steps that I'm going to have to take? And what is this that we're going to have to do? And then the more we spoke about what it was going to take to get some justice, the more I kept thinking, you know what? This is going to take up so much of my time. And I'm going to have to repeat the story over and over and over again. And what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be talking about him. And he's going to get my breath, my time, my thoughts. And I thought, you know what? What about, I want there to be a me. And I want to create something instead. I'm going to take this pain, I'm going to rinse it, I'm going to squeeze it, and I'm going to see what comes out of it. And once I waited, as soon as I waited that month, right? That month sort of like illness and self-rehabilitation and just feeling like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in this industry anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. This is so miserable. And after having gone the full spectrum of, dipping into a depression, not wanting to do it, to suddenly like waking up one day and be like, oh my God, that would be really funny. And if they walked out on stage in like holographic bathing suits, ooh, that would be really funny. And I was like, oh, and if we the women squeeze their asses, like this guy squeezed my ass, that would be really funny. And of course I won't do what that guy did to us, but maybe I will. You'll have to watch the movie.
I need it in my life right now.
So like the idea is that I realized that if I do this and I make it comedic, then I've taken that pain, and not only am I going to entertain people, and I've entertained people since, and at every one of my screenings, but I'm also going to stir up conversations, and I'm also going to stir up conversations between men and women. And I have, and every single screening that we have done, Galaxy 360, there will be men who come out of that screening and they will say, I never knew.
Mm.
While watching this, I never knew. I can't believe what I've discovered through the watching of this movie. And sometimes we'll have like really serious discussions. In New York, we had a screening where, the discussion went on to rape. And two women in the audience said, yeah, I've been where Anna has been, and I've been assaulted, and I've been raped. And then suddenly the discussion started going. And, the men in the audience said, this is an incredible moment. This is an incredible conversation. And we're so glad that we're in it. And it was the first time that the men were being able to speak to women with women in this kind of like open and honest way. And they said to me, this is the first time that women are speaking to me about rape. And it was triggered by the movie. So I feel like when those conversations happen at the end of my movie, I've come full circle. And I just should say that the movie is a comedy, but with a very powerful punch at the end. So like I won't reveal, but the punch is strong, and so people respond to the end very much.
My gosh, how powerful that you created a portal for not just your own healing, but like the healing of the world, the healing of all women, the healing of men, because they're in their own woundedness in all of this, and creating a dialogue and the ability to empathize with one another and have these conversations like, this is what we need to be doing. This is the work we have to do. And to create a portal and entryway where people can access it because it's so uncomfortable and it's so hard and so many people just avoid it. Like, what a gift that you've brought to the world from such a challenging experience and many challenges. It wasn't just the one, it was a compounding effect where that was the combustion point, it sounds like, that kind of propelled you to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said is so important, because the work with men is definitely part of this story. And I like to say that I worked with the most beautiful men on this set. It was the most beautiful souls. They were so respectful. They were so kind. And and in a way, I as a human being came full circle because I cast them. I through with all of my gullibility and naivete and all that kind of stuff, I finally was able to see the good people that I wanted to be part of this movie. And they were part of this movie. And so many of them have said to me that it's changed some of their relationships. It's changed the way they treat their daughters. It's changed the way they treat their girlfriends. And, you can hear them speaking about that at our premiere in New York, where they talked about, how making the film really impacted them, and making the film impacted me and the female actresses as well, because we do switch roles and we do switch shoes in this film. And it's such an incredible experience, because what happened even to me during this process is that I didn't know myself. Even though I came up with it, even though I thought it was hilarious, I didn't know how stuck we are. Like, I didn't know how stuck we all are. So when we, the women, were empowered, right, I would say to the women, okay, now it's time for you guys to grab their asses. And and as funny as that is, the women were like, okay, I don't know if we can do it. None of us could do it. Like we couldn't do, we were uncomfortable. We were like, what? Like, and so, and the guys, all day long, I'd be like, I don't like your abs. You drop down and give me 20 push-ups, drop down and give me 30 sit-ups. I don't like your body like this. Okay, open up your shirt. I want to see your abs. Oh, you look so hot. You look so hot. You look so hot. You look so, and I would like repeat it. You look so hot. You look so, right to the guys, like during rehearsal. And one of the younger actors said to me, my God, is that what you guys live through I said, all the time. And all four of the women said, all the time, all the time, all the time. Constant discussion of looks, either comparatively speaking, either in a critical way or in a positive way, but it's all the time. So when somebody says to you, you're so hot, you're so hot, you're so hot, the thing that you do when that person goes is like, okay, but was I hot yesterday? Am I going to be hot tomorrow? Will I be hot in an hour when I'm drunk? You know what I'm saying? Like what this hot thing is such a pressure, and it was for them too, because you could see them like checking, you could see the men like feeling like, oh my God, I'm constantly dealing with my body. And it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And some of these men have gone on to really, really work out a lot after my movie, because my movie really made them self-conscious.
Oh no.
Inevitably so, because they lived in our shoes.
Now they get it and they're cursed for life.
Right, exactly. Like, I gotta be buff. I gotta be really buff.
Oh no.
But the truth is that like that switch, and it's a switch, but it's also a catalyst for those conversations that are so needed between men and women. And instead of us saying to the men, God, we're so sick of talking about our appearances, just let them live it. Let's not complain about what we go through. Let the men experience being us.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do in Cannes. When I screen it, I'm gonna do a live performance, and I'm gonna take people into my world. So
Oh my gosh, that's gonna be phenomenal. Anyone there is going to have their lives changed. I have no doubt about it, because I feel like mine has been changed just since meeting you and having these discussions, like so impacted by just your journey and your energy. Like, gosh, just creativity and confidence embodied. I have never felt such a presence for this far of a distance. I just have to say it's such an honor to be in this space with you. But I do want to go to one place. So we're talking about your amazing work. You're doing it. You've made these transformations. You've gone through these challenges. But life isn't that simple as like a before and an after, and you started with the struggle and now you have this film and you're doing all of this glamorous stuff. What else is going on in the day-to-day? Let's talk about the reality of being a woman that's a mother, that's successful, that's trying to balance all of this. What does that look like for you right now?
a mess.
Yes.
A giant mess. Like before our meeting today, I had like 100 things that I was like, I gotta get this done. I probably did like, 10%. I do a to-do list. So I wake up I like to say every morning, but not too early because I stay up late. But I like to do a couple of things that are absolutely necessary, I feel like, for my journey towards accomplishing things. And one of the things I do is I make my bed. I've made my bed as a kid. And then at some point during my divorce from my ex, I didn't make the bed, and I know it sounds weird, and I know it sounds small, and I know it sounds not that important, but for some reason, making that bed every single day, and I probably started doing it, I even want to say like 3-4 years ago. It really helps to set me up for the day, right? And helps to kind of make me feel like things are going to I said I'm going to make the bed, and I made the bed. And that little action, it seems like a little action, but it's an action that I said I would do and then took. And so I feel like what's important in, at least, I like to say, trying to be successful as a single mom with a lot of things going on. Another thing that was going on is I was trying to get my son out of the house in order to do this interview, and I couldn't achieve that, and his he's like, I'm going to be really quiet. I'm going to be really quiet. But this is the reality. The reality is I do have like 2 kids in the house, and I have to deal with the pressure of living, together and maneuver. And they're like teens. So we're maneuvering space, and we're maneuvering our lives. And sometimes they just like throw my door open and like, Mom, this happened at school. And I was like, I'm in the middle of something, guys. And it's really hard to do. It's really hard to say when you are. And my daughter likes to say, you're always busy, Mom. I mean, you're always busy. I mean, so, and if I'm traveling, it's worse. But I do try to like make time for them. And I try, and this isn't, I guess, if I like to say I'm no one to advise anyone, because I'm a mess. And I always like to say I'm a mess, but I'm also a person who accomplishes a lot over time. You know what I mean?
Yes, embrace the mess.
Yeah. So I have a couple of rules for myself. So one is I make the bed. Two is if I ended up talking to either my mom or my kid or my boyfriend too long, if I spend too long with each person, right? And that amount of time took time away from the work I was supposed to do. And let's say I had 20 points on my to-do list and I'll only get through 10 because I ended up spending an hour longer with that person that I spoke to. I will never, ever regret that extra hour. I will never regret the extra time that I spent with that person because that's a beautiful thing that happened. Now it might mean I'll have less sleep, right? But it won't, I don't want to, that I honor that moment, right?
I love what you said about how those moments with your family, those moments with the people that matter to you, that's never time taken away, that's like time added. And I think that's so important because for those of us who live busy lives, who are trying to do a lot of things, I think sometimes we make the mistake of letting that feel like a burden or of making those cuts first to those people that we know are going to love us anyways. And that's where it hurts the most, when we start to lose touch with that. So the fact that you're able to, even within the messiness and the chaos and the busyness and trying to do so many amazing things, you're able to recognize those extra moments, even if it took away from something else that was a gift. Like, what a beautiful perspective. I think everybody can take that to heart.
Yeah, I mean, I am a huge believer in not regretting either your mistakes or time lost from your ultimate mission, right? Because, to me, like, my kids are amazing and I have a friendship with them. And part of it is because I would lose time from my work because I was like, oh, we're having like an amazing discussion. Me and the kids are having an amazing discussion. I can't interrupt that, like, and so, and so, and here's the thing, ever since I became sort of more spiritual and more into healing and more kind of, I use the term loosely, awakened. And I do believe that I woke up one day and said, I'm a different person than the person I had thought that I was. I guess the most interesting story. Okay, but before I get to the most interesting story about the awakening, and I will get to the awakening, because that's a pretty interesting story. The thing that I want to say for everybody out there is when you regret, right? Let's just break it down logically. When you regret your thought, your experience, when you regret something you've done, when you berate yourself, when you spend that time with someone, and sometimes it'll be a stranger. Sometimes I meet a stranger in a coffee shop and I know I'm busy, but it's a fascinating moment and I'll take that moment with the stranger. And when we do that, we are actually depleting our own energy. And so if the goal is to stay on mission and to achieve as much as you can achieve, and obviously you can't go back in time, so you can't bring back that hour, but you can either speed up some of the things you were going to do slower, which is what I do, just speed up, and or you don't sleep as much. And sometimes you don't sleep as much, and that's, you take the time away from your sleep schedule. But how much happier you are and how much more productive you are, because you are not berating yourself, and that beratement, which women experience a lot in their lives, and this is what I'm talking about, no matter what happens to us, whether we've been assaulted, or whether we wore the wrong thing, or we got into the wrong relationship, or that guy lied to us and we didn't realize. We're always self-critiquing, or our looks. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I didn't do my hair right. Oh, I didn't wear the right thing, and it's this constant process of beratement. And that actually depletes us, it depletes our energy, depletes our will, and silences us, right? It just puts us into a quieter spot and actually takes away our confidence. because what happens with it is a slow but sure depletion of one's confidence. And that's why sometimes when women get older, and they go through crises, or they go through divorces, they become less confident. And it's because there's a lot of self-blame. And the self-blame is this energetic depletion. It's a disempowerment. So in order to be empowered, right? In order to have power, in order to have confidence, you have to be vigilant about your own psyche, about your own self. You have to understand that we come from a history of silence, victimization, and self-blame. I mean, it's historical. Our oppression is historical. We're not alone. And I am not an original on this. There's so many other women who share this exact feeling, this exact experience that I'm talking about. So when I talk about my awakening, through the awakening, I understood that if I want to achieve things, I need to change. And in order to change, it begins with my own mind. And so I started, I mentioned as a joke, I said, I made this play called Conversations with My Breasts. And then I made this play, Sex in Mommyville. But one of the most interesting things that happened to me during this process is I watched men, right? I watched men. How do men accomplish things? How do women not accomplish things? I'm a big believer in role models. You watch people who can't achieve things. Why? Why? Because they overthink it. Sometimes they're incredibly talented. They're incredible people. They're amazing people. They can't get through stuff because they're either blaming themselves, they're either overcritical, and they're putting obstacles in front of themselves before they can get there. And sometimes, a lot of times, it's women who've gone through very difficult situations. And so the thing that I want to say about empowering yourself is, so you become vigilant inside your own mind, and then you take every moment that you break yourself down thought-wise, you take that breakdown, you separate out that thought, you see that thought, you become aware of that thought, and you say to yourself, hey, I just had that thought. Now I have a choice. I can either acknowledge that I've had that thought and then let that thought go, or like I do, store it in the vault of really bad thoughts. I have like a little vault. I carry it around. I say, Fishbeyn, one more bad thought. Just put it over there. You got to get this done. If you're going to get anything done, bad thoughts vault, like it's a vault. It's got bad thoughts. And I put it, I lock it. And I put it away into some closet inside my subconscious, and I don't open it for as long as I possibly can, right?
I was not expecting this turn, and I love it. Oh, keep going.
So you got that's my method. But but if you want to get all spiritual and stuff, I would advise women. My advice would be, you acknowledge that the thought occurred, you see that the thought occurred, you let that thought go, or you let that thought pass, and then you remember that you're part of a collective, you're part of a sisterhood. You remember that you're not alone. And when you understand that you are not alone in thinking this thought, and that all these women around you, your mother, your grandmother, your sister, your daughter, you're all having that same thought. And at the same time, you also understand the statistics of women versus men, who makes all the money, who has all the power, who rules all the countries, who are the billionaires in our world. And you remember that we are not them. When you take that thought, that one thought, and you take the geopolitical sense of women versus men, and the fact that, women, 2.6% of women get funded versus men. When women get funding, it's between 50,000 to 2 million, and men get funded for startups between 2 million to 10 million, because people trust men to work with money. And that often, women are not trusted with money for whatever reasons, and I don't judge anyone, because we're all part of a historical fabric that's been ingrained in all of us from the beginning of time. You work, you home, you achieve, you take care of the babies. So, and now what women are saying is like, hey, we can do, we are really smart. Yes, we are, but psychologically, we are stuck. And so, you know, when I made this movie and when I talk about this movie, I'm also talking about a place where we're all stuck. And so the way that this change is going to begin is with women doing this with themselves and not allowing those thoughts to block them, slow them down, or deplete their energy and their willpower and their hope. Most importantly, hope, right? And for men to be able to see, hey, you know what? If she's not constantly putting herself down, if she is more positive, if she's more confident, you know, he might be like, oh, okay, she's kind of like me. Like, we're kind of like both like super confident and arrogant. Like, that's cool. Like, we can work together, whatever. And having said all that, I don't want to put all the blame on women. I want women to understand that how we feel, the way that we feel, is a historical oppression, and that we shouldn't blame ourselves for second guessing ourselves, because it is historical, because we're doing something entirely new in trying to, you know, co-create, co-rule the world, co-do these career. We are trying to get up there right now. And it's okay to struggle. And it's okay to understand that it's going to take time, and it's going to take analysis, and it's going to take psychological work. But do the work, get on board, get those tools in place, and let's do this so we can get to gender equity and get rid of rape. Like, those are big goals of mine.
Mic drop. Yeah, we have so much healing to do together. And I love the way that you took like the cognitive process of flipping a thought or a letting go of a thought. Like, that's something a lot of us hear about, work with. I teach that with my clients, but to go a step further to say, this isn't just your thought. This is a shared thought. This is the thought that connects you to your sisters and to your ancestors and to all of these other women who've experienced this. And we're in it together, and we can tenderly let it go, knowing that we're also in community and we're going to rise up together. Like, we have to all move the dial with these little moments every day together. It's such a beautiful picture that you just painted. And I think perfect representation of the struggle, right? Like, we're going through the struggle. We're up against, you know, tremendous odds, and we're moving forward, right? And I want to talk at this point, like, this is a perfect entryway, a little bit about Transformation 360. We haven't talked about this yet. I want to hear more. Please tell us.
Yes. So to do what, so I love the way they, first of all, I want to say that the work that every coach and every healer does is amazing. And that we are all moving kind of in the same direction. What you do is incredible. Like, I was so excited to read about the healing work that you do and the focus that you have. And I was so moved by it. I immediately connected to it. And I think that it is part of a larger picture, even though people sometimes think, oh, you know, Kyla, she's helping me, the individual. But really, it's like, when you impact that one individual, you are impacting, you know, that individual's impact on everybody else. When you are healing them, they're healing others, and you're also healing so many others. And we're actually, when we all come together, you've got one healer here, another healer here, and then it's like a ripple effect. And when we give each other these tools, we are actually moving the dial towards gender equity in a larger sense of the word, right? Because even though it seems like just one individual, it's not.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing is so important. And like the healer doesn't think about it that way, because they're thinking, okay, here's my client. I'm coaching my client. I'm changing their lives. Oh, you're changing so much more than their lives. You're changing their mothers, their daughters. You're changing their colleagues, their coworkers. You're changing the men in their lives, because they're speaking differently now. They're thinking differently now. They're moved differently, right? So
Yes.
it's like this beautiful thing. And so we have to just keep at it and keep hoping and keep not letting there's a lot of pushback to what we're doing. And we just can't let that stop us, because it's very easy to kind of, fall into the place of sadness, into the place of hopelessness. It's very easy to do that. Okay, so I will speak about, so what I do, I've spoken a little bit about sort of, I do two different things. Transformation 360 is this program that I have, which is about healing and me working one-on-one with people, and me working with women one-on-one. And I've done that, where I talk about confidence. And I talked a lot. I actually talked here a little bit about confidence and what I think of confidence, but most vitally in Transformation 360, it's about sort of the mind, body, gut trifecta. It's a three-way approach to your confidence. And it's not anything that I've ever seen that's out there, because I truly believe, because I was so not confident, and I didn't know how to deal with it. But because I was an actress, and because, I was taught to kind of stand straight. And when I stood straight, I felt a little bit differently about myself. And then I put on those feathers. When I played my character in Galaxy 360, I played this character named Illumina, and she's super confident. So I had to be super confident to be her. And I wore leather, and I wore like 10-inch heels. And, I hovered above the men. It was amazing. And I got up on set and I said, oh my God, I'm in charge. I was in charge as a character, and I was also in charge as a director, and I was also in charge as the person who created this movie. It was my baby. And so what was interesting to me, and that really was how my program was born, was because I realized that if I work on confidence from the outside in, if I put on a certain outfit, if I put on a certain color, if I walk a certain way, if I change my posture, then suddenly I don't have to think about it so much, because thinking is such a tricky thing for us women, right? So many tricks involved. Am I good enough? Am I hot enough? Am I young enough? Am I this? Am I that? All the time. And that depletes our confidence. Like the whole pressure on our looks always depletes our confidence. But if I wear those clothes and that costume, and people around you, when I would walk out in that outfit, people were like, oh, but part of it was because I took up so much space, right? And so taking up space and being confident about your body in your clothes and your costume, and putting on that costume. And so one of the things I teach is how to be in your body. So we don't think about confidence at all. We don't talk about confidence at all. We don't say the word confident. We just say, okay, how am I going to carry my body? And then the thing that I work with in terms of the gut is eating certain kinds of foods. It's the same. I always think it's the same kind of calculation that I make about women and destructive thoughts. If I have food that I think is not good for me, I will then berate myself for that food. And then when I berate myself, my confidence will definitely be, oh, I ate the wrong food. But you know what that means? It means I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to gain weight in the wrong places. Oh my God, that's going to be so terrible. And now I have this meeting, but I had this huge bowl of ice cream yesterday. So like that process, that logical process is depleting your confidence. So I have two sources, like two, I think this is like the best thing that a woman can do. Eat a fucking salad. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Just set that up. Sorry. It's my comedic self coming out. No. So you can do two things. You can do two things. One, try to be healthy, right? Try to be healthy, because you know that you berate yourself if you're not, right? You got that big meeting coming up. Try to be healthy for your own sake, not because it's going to change anything for you, but because you know that if you don't eat that salad, and if you screw up and you eat a large burger with French fries, you're going to be upset with yourself. So the whole goal is not to be upset with yourself. But let's say you didn't eat that salad. Let's say you had that huge bowl of ice cream, and you had popcorn, and you had a burger, and now what's going to happen? You're going to be thinking about it. So what I always say is, okay, so you had all that, right? It's in your gut now. Let it go. You did it. Celebrate it. You broke the rules. You broke your own rules. You were bad, you know? You know, like let it go and be confident in the fact that you broke the rules. Be confident in the fact that you were frustrated. Take confidence in almost everything that you do. Infuse it into how you eat and what you think about your eating. Encourage yourself to eat healthy, obviously, for the obvious reasons that we've all read. But also, when you don't, there's no need to go nuts on yourself. Because I see so many people be like, oh my God, I broke my diet. Oh my God, it was so terrible. Oh my God, like this is gonna destroy me, destroy my body. And tomorrow I'm gonna gain weight. It's gonna be 3 pounds. And it's because I gained the 3 pounds because I ate that bowl of ice cream. No, it's not gonna happen like that. You know, set goals for yourself to be consistent, but primarily set goals for yourself to be consistent for your own sort of like it's both emotional and actual physical well-being, because the emotional well-being is to be able to be okay with what you eat, because so much of the time that the weight issues come around is because of self-hatred, right? And the food for women who struggle with weight, and I've had a client who struggled with weight, you know, like the problem is that the food becomes a way, a path into self-hatred, and it doesn't have to be. Completely doesn't have, has nothing to do with the food. It has to do with the way that you treat the food, both in your body, outside your body, and as you're imbibing it into your body. So, you know, I obviously, I don't struggle with weight because I am, and there's only one word for it, busy. And I forget, you know, like there's only one word for why I stay thin. And it's because I do a couple of things. I dance. So it really doesn't matter what I eat sometimes, because I dance so much and so hard that I don't worry about it at all. But the other reason is I sometimes forget to eat, which is not very healthy. But at the same time, I used to have issues with food when I was younger, and I struggled with food when I was younger. And that's before I had children. Before I got, you know, children made all issues go away. You just become so busy. And if you want to achieve something, the juggling makes it very difficult. And so I've developed systems, and I like to advise people to develop systems. When you develop a system for eating, you can break your system. But when you have a system in place, like I'm going to eat this way specifically, like I'm going to have a salad with every meal. That's a system. Right? I'm going to have a protein with the salad. That's a system. You know, I am not going to, let's say, have ice cream on day, I don't know. I never have ice cream because I'm from a different culture. I eat pickles. So, you know, I like salty foods. That's my thing. But in my culture, people were not so attached to sweets in the way, like my daughter, she loves sweets. And so she also has a system about it. Like she's not going to do, like she creates a system for herself. She's going to have this, and she's going to have a salad with every meal. And when you have a salad with every meal, even if everything else around it is a mess, you feel good. You're like, all right, I got my greens. I did that. So developing that system and having a positive aspect to that system is such an important thing. But the reason I say it is not because I'm trying to teach somebody nutrition, is because I'm trying to teach you how to stay positive and confident and empowered to achieve the goals you want to achieve. Because all of this is about your success. All of this buildup, all of this empowerment, all of this confidence is because I want women to rise and to apply their brilliance and their nurturing and their sweetness into the world of work and politics. That's what it needs to be all about.
We need it. We need it so bad. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we are like, I didn't even realize I lost the time. I have 2 more questions I want to ask you. The first, I'm going to give them both now, and then you can answer them however you see fit. My first question is, what is one thing you want people to take away after they watch Galaxy 360? Because I am so amped up about this. And the second question is, how can people find you outside of this? This time has flown by. I want people to be able to find you, to work with you, to watch all of the things you've created, to be on your social medias, all the things. So what do you want people to take away from Galaxy 360 or just from your work in general? And then where can they find you? How can they work with you? Tell us all the things.
Okay, great. So what to take away from Galaxy 360? Well, have a good time, laugh your heart out and really enjoy the film. It goes places. I like to say, we were compared to Barbie. I like to say it's Barbie after dark. And so, and it's all about being able to laugh at yourself and not take yourself too seriously. And I'm a great believer in that. And so that's number one. And number two, in terms of Galaxy, I definitely want men and women to start having conversations, to spark conversations about gender, about women, about what women go through. I want to help empower women. And I also want to help men become more empathetic to women. And I also want to help women become more empathetic to men, because, one of the things that happened to us as women when we were empowered and when we took the power, let me tell you something between us gals, what happened to me is I was like, damn, if I had all this power, I wouldn't give it up. I mean, I get it. I really, really get it. I was like, wow, it feels so great. It feels so great to be in charge. And if I was in charge for centuries and my spouse was like, I want some of that, I was like, nah, you stay home, because I love ruling.
Oh my gosh.
So that's a real thing that you got to be honest with yourself. We've got to be honest with ourselves. I hear a lot of discussions about gender and about feminism that seem to not really, strike the white elephant in the room. And the white elephant in the room is power. We're in a power play, because if we get more jobs, they lose jobs. Well, my answer is let's just make more jobs, or let's have solutions that don't feel like, let's have solutions that are collaborative, that breed better understanding, and that allow us to really, truly be empathetic with each other and be in a more comfortable space that isn't so acrimonious, in which we can discuss these differences without hurting each other, right? So that's Galaxy. How you can work with me. You can, first of all, I would love everyone to join my program. I have a platform that's called Movement 360. It's movement360.tv. And that platform is my own streaming platform that I came up with this year and that I put together. It has a lot of my content. It has Invisible Alice. It has Happy Hour Feminism. It has some of my live shows. I'm also bringing in more content, and I will be eventually streaming everything that I do. It's a hybrid platform that brings films and events together and creates what I have coined as experiential cinema, that allows us to really have experiences. And as we enter the world of AI and everything is becoming so digitized and digital and AI powered, I want us to be able to have a human connection. And I really think this is going to be the platform of the future, where human beings can come together, live through cinema, live through this, and actually be able to connect and have art that has impact on us, that has social impact. So joining the platform, it would be, sign up for free or join it to be part of the events, join it to watch the content. It's $32 per month. It's not a big deal. But you get to experience a lot of this. And I'll be teaching workshops through the platform, where I'll be teaching confidence workshops, things that you've heard me talk about. And I'll also be teaching marketing to filmmakers through the program as well. So lots of really cool stuff coming up after my screening of it. And also during the Cannes Film Festival, I'll have a workshop during the Cannes Film Festival. So sign up as soon as you can, and then you'll be in on all the action. And we'll be streaming some of the event live that will go on Movement 360. So I'm very excited about that. And if people want to work with me privately, one-on-one, that you just email me and, say email me at movement360 transform at gmail.com and just say in the subject line confidence, and I will know what you mean.
I love it. Okay, amazing. So we are going to put all of the links in the description. So if you want to know more, we're going to put all of the things. If you want to follow Anna on social, if you want to work with her, if you want to get connected on this platform and experience this, all of that is going to be in the description for you so that you can find her easily. Anna, is there anything else you want to share with us before we have to say goodbye? This has been such an amazing conversation. I don't even want it to end, but I have a bedtime, so we'll have to wrap up soon.
This is an amazing, honestly, thank you for this platform and thank you for this discussion. And I am like, I just feel such gratitude for you, because some of the stuff, like I almost want to cry, honestly, because some of the stuff that I talked about here on this platform, and because I shared so easily with you, because you've given me that permission and that safety to share, I haven't been able to do on other podcasts and on other platforms. And I'm just so happy that, we had this moment, because you're just amazing. And thank you very much. I really, my heart goes out to you, really.
Thank you so much for coming on. I echo everything. I've become like tears welling up multiple points in our conversation. This has been so beautiful, so real. Our paths crossed for a reason. I'm so excited to put this out into the world and share it. Everyone who is listening, I hope you are inspired. I hope you are excited. I hope you're feeling confident. Take some of the pieces of wisdom into your life today. Start having these conversations. This is the work. We're in it right now. Thank you so much. And I hope everyone takes radically good care of themselves until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you want more resources on thriving in your life or want details on working with me, check out my website at internallyguidedleadership.com or follow me on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok at Internally Guided Coach. Be gentle with yourselves out there, and I'll talk to you next time.